and welcome to Light for Life. If you are returning to our channel, thank you. We value and appreciate you. Our aim is to shine a bright light on your inner splendor and assist to connect you to your magnificence via what we intend to be enlightened sharing, potentially educational and hopefully entertaining information, as well as encouragement for new perspectives. If you are new here, you are most welcome. We do hope that you will find our content highly beneficial and enjoyable. I am Liss. I'm a science of mind practitioner and a teacher of various healing modalities applicable to all aspects of the self and this life.
And I am Lori. I am a holistic wellness researcher and educator. Welcome to Connections with Liss and Lori. We use this space to offer our perspective regarding multiple different topics that we certainly hope you find inspiring. Today, Liss and I are going to share our perspectives regarding resistance and take a deeper dive into what resistance actually does mean and what it might look like in our lives. So I imagine we have all heard the quote, "What we resist persists," right? But what does that really mean? And how does that play out in our lives? Well, at the risk of getting a little too personal here, I can speak to this one really well because for many, 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 many years, I did fall into a loop of resisting something that I didn't want at all. And I understood the concept, what we resist persists, but I didn't know how to get myself out of that loop. And when people would encourage me to accept something that I was struggling with, I just couldn't understand. I couldn't understand how these people that had the best of intentions wanted me to accept something that I didn't want. Because not only did I not understand resistance very well, but I also simultaneously didn't understand acceptance very well. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why Liss and I get together and do these connections, is for other people who might have the same questions that we had when we were learning all of these answers, is to help them better understand, what does that mean when we resist something and we see it persisting in our life? We see these patterns looping over and over and over and over, and we keep getting what we don't want. And a lot of times these are not only uncomfortable things that we'll keep repeating, but they could even be things that bring up a lot of fear. And that was the case for me. Fears in general, as a basis, are somewhat unrealistic. We tend to fear things that aren't even really that real. And that fear can hold a lot of energy. And that energy that is involved in that fear, the trajectory that an energy can take, the snowball roll down the hill that energy can take when we are feeling that fear, actually builds on what we don't want. And it keeps building what we don't want, and it keeps building what we don't want, and it keeps building what we don't want. So in a way, I feel that resistance and acceptance somewhat go a little hand in hand. And I would refer you to our recording regarding acceptance to better understand what I mean about that. But when I did start to understand that I was in a loop of resistance and how to get out of that loop of resistance, it really did have to do with acceptance. And it didn't mean that I was accepting the thing that I was afraid of. And it didn't mean that I was accepting the discomfort that went along with what I was resisting. It meant more acknowledging, okay, there's this thing, and this thing is uncomfortable. And I accept that. I accept that it's uncomfortable. But I have to break myself out of this loop. So what do I do to break out of this loop? I start putting all of that fear that I was putting into the thing I didn't want and put all of the joy into what I do want. It's really, in my opinion, now I will see what Liss would like to share, but in my opinion, it's really shifting where you send that energy. And instead of, oh my goodness, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, and you're creating what you don't want. It's shifting your focus and shifting the energy that you were giving to this over here to this, and really cultivating all of the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions and the experience of that thing that you do want, even though you don't quite have it yet, and really focusing your energy in that direction. That's all I got.
I love the way you explained that, Laurie. As always, one of the reasons why I love our connection so is that you will always come from a perspective that I didn't even consider. And so
Okay.
I enjoy that so much. And what you just shared is certainly a very valuable technique for actually achieving a shift out of resistance. But I think the perspective that I would like to start with is just to understand the nature of resistance itself a little better. Because like everything else down here in a 3D reality, resistance is not one thing.
Yeah.
Resistance is not just a singular thing that always presents with the same face and is about the same things and results in the same consequences. Believe it or not, resistance is also a trinity. And they're not all bad. Resistance does have a center point, which is very, very positive. And that is that because it's such a strong force field, it can actually very powerfully be used to literally keep out of our lives that which we don't want. It can be incredibly powerful towards developing our own character, developing the character traits that we actually do desire, and not identifying with things that we don't. It is also very foundational towards having a solidly functioning moral core with which we make the decisions and the choices that we make in life. Resistance is also the force very often that can empower our free will and our agency to refuse an experience and not continue creating something negative that was perhaps just begun. So that's resistance in its positive use. However, resistance also has two faces that are less than desirable. One of them is unconscious and one of them is conscious. And both of these faces of resistance can play out in two ways. So in other words, we've got one that in three different ways is beneficial, two polarized ends of a spectrum that contain four different faces that are varying degrees of negative and harmful. So let me just elaborate on those a little, if I may. First of all, conscious resistance is resistance that we are aware of. We know we have it.
Yeah.
And we choose to keep having it. We know it sabotages us. We know it doesn't serve us. We know all the things in our headspace, right?
Yeah.
But the force field of resistance, for some reason that we think we don't understand, is kept in place. Then there is another form of conscious resistance that we want to look at even less. We're conscious of it, but we're just not going to pay it any mind. And that is the form of resistance in which we really do want something. We desire it intensely. And we can't help but notice that we do not have that thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is not in our lives. It is not a present reality. We notice its absence all the time. But we won't bring our attention to the resistance that we know must be there. Otherwise, the desired thing would be. Then, in terms of unconscious resistance, this is very often referred to as a block.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that is an emotional block, a mental block, or an energetic block, there is something preconditioned or pre-programmed into our subconscious minds that for reasons we cannot fathom is resistant to an experience. And that is usually coming from one or other aspect of a protective part in us. And that is the things that are very often irrationally fear-based. But then there's another kind of subconscious resistance as well, which is more of an imprint. It settles literally in the physical body. and prevents us from doing or having or choosing or exercising agency around something that we do want. So, in other words, resistance can work in the realm of the undesired, and it can work in the realm of the desired. It can work to keep the undesired in our reality, and it can work to keep the desired out of our reality. And we choose which one of the two potential avenues we're going to go down that keep that resistance in place. And it is a very powerful force. Resistance is literally like gravity in terms of its effect in the 3D world and in terms of how powerfully it manifests. And then, like you say, if we come along and we add other energies to it as well, like we give it our focused attention and we empower it with fear, then we make that resistance even stronger. And so essentially, we've gone and given ourselves a whole convoluted stew.
Yeah.
And very often people don't know where to begin picking apart the potatoes from the carrots, from the beans, from the meat of the stew that is the resistance. And so most people just decide, oh, well, all this money that I desire obviously just isn't meant for me.
Yeah.
Or this health that I wish I enjoyed, my body won't allow.
Yeah.
Or some other version of that, where we empower the external effect of the resistance instead of empowering ourselves to use that faculty of focus and attention, bring it to the resistance, and actually begin to not just understand it, but work through and process it so that it can be. Because resistance, as powerful as it is, can be dissipated and vanished if we will bring our power to bear upon it.
And I think that's really the key to anything, right? Is understanding, first of all, that we have that power, and then learning how to use that in ways that do benefit us. Because I think a lot of people don't even know that they have that power, and they're actually inadvertently using it against themselves. So I think that is really key to understanding that we do have this power. And if we learn how we can use that for the things that we want, instead of it using us, that's really how we cultivate change, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, you said imprint. Can I use that word interchangeably with belief? Can I use the word, sometimes we have beliefs that will kind of drive the bus of the things that we're resistant to. Do you feel there's a difference between beliefs and imprints?
I do, only in the sense of the realm that it manifests in.
Right,
So belief is very much in the mental realm,
right.
whereas imprints are in the energetic realm, and they tend to manifest physically.
I had a feeling you were
So
going
a
to say
belief is in the mental
that.
realm, and it will manifest physically as like step 2,
Yeah,
but it's taking place in the realm of mind. Whereas an imprint is literally like an energetic thumbprint. It's
yeah,
an energetic tattoo. And that is usually as deeply as DNA encoded.
right, right. Yeah. But I do think it's important to look at both. You know, if it's a little bit of a stretch for people to, you know, kind of wrap their human minds around the term imprint, just start a little lower. Just start a little lower in the mind and kind of try to take a look at some of the beliefs that might be driving the bus, so to speak. Some of the beliefs that are driving what it is that's making you uncomfortable, or driving what it is that's making you fearful. And for me, I think it's wise to try to go back into our timeline and see if we can remember a time when those beliefs might have started. You know, was there an event that started this belief that made us think, if this happens, then this? And it kind of gets stretched out into a pattern of what we believe. And the patterns in our life is kind of what I meant by the loop. We keep seeing ourselves, but also ourselves in relations to others, looping in these patterns. And we, I think a lot of times we think, I just have such bad luck. Or why does this keep happening to me? Or why do I keep getting the things that I don't want when this is really what I do want? And I think you're right. I think we do make the mistake of, well, it's just not meant to be. And we throw our hands up and walk away. And we accept what we don't want, unknowing that we're just caught in a loop of the things that we believe, or we're caught in a loop of this imprint that's kind of overlaid over our behaviors that, like you said, can completely be just dissipated. And we can start moving in the direction of what we do want, right?
Yes. And so very often, life is mirroring that to us in the form of lack. Life is showing us what's missing. So if I'm deeply desirous of a certain experience and it isn't in my life, that is my surest sign that I am holding some form of resistance, whether unconscious or conscious, towards actually having this thing. And sometimes the resistance can be something as simple as feeling unworthy of that experience.
Yeah.
But there's nothing simple about understanding why you
Right.
feel unworthy of having that experience.
Right.
You may not be conscious of when that idea about unworthiness was even programmed in.
Right.
And what has happened on an imprint level, even though that might sound complicated to people, it really isn't.
Right.
It's just that a certain way of being, emotionally, mentally, and in your beliefs, energetically, has created a certain chemical composition in your physical body. And those chemicals keep firing with the same message, and the
Yeah.
cells keep swimming inside of that same frequency. And that's
Yeah.
what an imprint is. It's an automatic program. The cells have never been told to do something else. They've never been given a new recipe.
Yeah.
They've never been handed a new instruction. And we have the greatest tool available to us in our awareness. When something like that is unconscious and it's missing from our experience and we don't know why, we hold the answers inside of us if we will turn to asking the questions. Instead of asking the question pointlessly, I don't know why, and leaving it at that, why don't we empower the question? Go to our awareness and say, okay, I don't know why. Please show me.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be shown. And that is how we work through that resistance. And we dissipate it. Because the moment we see the light, we go, aha! And then we have all the answers. And then immediately we are given all these tools just by
Yes.
virtue of understanding what it is that we're dealing with. Now, all of a sudden, I didn't know I had this toolbox, all these things that I can use to bring myself to a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we dissolve those blocks. Because the truth is, a block is only real because we think it is.
Yeah.
And as soon as we think differently, it's not there anymore. So I can encourage people, look at what is missing in your experience and use that mirror as a guide. And look at what is present in your experience that you would prefer not to be.
Mm-hmm.
And use that reality as a guide. And take the questions within.
Yeah.
And allow the light to show you. Because it will. It will. An incredibly powerful force field that resistance is. It's literally amazing
Mm-hmm.
how quickly it loses all its power, how quickly it just dissipates. It's incredible.
It is. And I love the analogy of let life show you what you think you're lacking. Because life, like you said, life is always showing us exactly what we're thinking, but we don't even know that that's what life is doing. It is a constant reflection of what it is that is running in the background, either in the subconscious mind or in the unconscious mind, and sometimes even in the conscious mind, but we're completely blind to what's right here, right?
Yes. Yes.
But if we take the blinders off and we are willing to really start to see and to start to go within and really use our gift of awareness, It's all right there. It's all right there. All we have to do is learn how to read the information that is right there in the mirror.
And if I can give people one enormous clue, like a cheat code to this whole process,
Love it.
100% of the time, what is missing is some form of love.
Yeah, that's true.
Because love is everything.
Yeah.
So if we will just bring our attention to where is love missing? What form of love is missing? Where is there just not enough love? That's the clue,
Yeah.
and that's the key.
In what area are we not aligning with love? In what area are we holding love back from ourselves? In what area are we, I always think of magnets when you talk about love, and when we think of stuff like this, I think of magnets. And magnets can also repel, right? So what area are we resisting that attraction pattern to love? Even if we're going to talk about money, I think a lot of people don't understand that money is just another expression of love and worth. And when we have a resistance pattern there, when what we really want to do is earn so much money, we get to give it away to all of the beautiful causes that we wish we could just give it away. That resistance pattern can really just dissolve right before your eyes. But it's that awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully said.
Thank you for connecting with Light for Life. If you appreciate reminders, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can receive those notifications. If you would like to work with one of us, you can find our contact information in the About section of this channel.
Yes, thank you for connecting with Light for Life. Please share your insights, your questions, and your comments with us in the comment section below. We value your feedback. And we really hope that we will see you for our next episode. We upload one every Thursday. Until then, bye-bye and be joyful.
Until we connect again, we send you love and light.